thoughts, perspectives, and ideas to take your yoga journey forward, and also get to ask the burning questions that you may have for the Amiji regarding the books too as well. And so, secondly, I also want to thank Amiji for being with us today, and all our Hindu Yuva volunteers who have made this event possible. They have worked countless number of hours to make this event possible. So, and we are truly blessed to have such a wonderful team. So please give a big round of applause for us. And now, for the reason we are all here, I'd like to introduce Amiji to you formally. So Ami Ganatraji is accomplished strategic consultant with 15 years of experience, having graduated from the IIM Ahmedabad. She is a woman of many hats, being a successful management professional to also being critically acclaimed best-selling authors as well, a certified yoga instructor, and a devoted student of Indic knowledge system. Amiji is passionate about finding the truth and has challenged common misconceptions about the Indian texts. Her book Mahabharata Unraveled and Ramayana Unraveled have been well received for their thorough analysis and clarifications of the myth and legends in this Itisas. To put it in her own words, from the book Ramayana Unraveled, about why she decided to write yet another book on Ramayana, right? She mentions that with regards to the misconception and myth propagated by the books and medias and the mediums, that while anyone is free to take the creative liberty and may that genre grow in writing those fictions, but it becomes important to remind ourselves about the what actually Ityasa is, and time and again, when the social narratives are created around the civilization, which is as ancient as ours. So with that thought, I would like to invite Amiji on stage.
Namaste, Jai Shri Ram. All of you are here on a weekend, 4 p.m. Thank you for that. Very, very happy to be here amongst all of you.
Thank you so much. Please. So I would wonder that having listened to your podcast, a lot of audience members will have questions of their own about the yoga as well, because I've seen a lot of podcasts regarding yoga as well. And you also have your own YouTube channel where you do yoga and asana and teach all of that to your subscribers, so that's very wonderful. Please give a big round of applause for that. So the young person who wanting to know more about the yoga will go online and search what is yoga. They'll come across with the words like Hatha yoga, Raj yoga, and all those terminologies that you'll find. Oh, do I have to know the whole universe of yoga to really understand this term? So for the audience member who are not well read or don't know more about it, if you can define what is yoga and what are the limbs of it, and basically.
Okay, so let me start with asking you, what is you? Because we hear it all the time. What is you?
Union.
Okay, nice.
Divine.
Yes. What else?
Getting with energy.
Okay, perfect. I don't even need to explain it. Because usually when we say, or yoga, when people say, oh, I practice yoga, what we are essentially practicing is asana. Right? And that is also how I started my journey. It was only asana. In fact, I like to tell this story as well, that the reason eventually the whole study started, the root of it is yoga. I have been practicing asana for a long time. It started with thanks to my mom, I used to do gymnastics as a kid. So at that point, I started picking up asanas, and I used to think that is exactly what it is. So when I grew up and I had some time, and I was like, chalo, let's get deeper into this. I want to get deeper into yoga. And what I'm thinking in my head is asanas. So I was like, okay, I want to refer to the text. And then I learned that, oh, there's this text called Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So I take the text, and I'm like trying to find asanas. And in this entire book, which is a thin book, there are no asanas. All it says is Sthiram Sukham Asana. I'm like, okay. It's talking about Samapatti Bhyam, it's talking about Dvandva, it's talking about duality and all that. I'm like, what's going on? Where are the asanas? What is yoga? Is my life a mithya? Like I have not known what yoga is and I think I'm practicing yoga. So then at that time I'm like, let's now understand what this is. Now when I started reading the Yoga Sutras, I realized that in Bhagavad Gita also we keep talking yoga, right? But he's not telling Arjun to go out and do asanas there on the field. But it is still all the 18 chapters are called some yoga. So then what exactly is this yoga was the question I was faced with. And then as I studied more, I realized that Hatha Yoga or any other yoga that you hear of, they are all part of yoga, but a subset of yoga. Yeah? And overall, as you mentioned, yoga, the word itself is yuja. Yuja is to join, but yuja samadha is also focus. Yeah? So the root word yuja, because in Sanskrit, every shabda, every word has a root word. And that root word has some meaning, based on which the eventual word gets a meaning and it is used in that fashion. So for yuja, it is to join, yujate, and it is also yuja samadha, which is to concentrate, to focus on. So then what are we talking about when we say union? Union of what? Yeah. Interestingly, when we study even the Mahabharata, Ramayana, or any Bharatiya text for that matter, we tend to read it at multiple levels. One is a very physical level. Yeah. Say Mahabharata, physical itihas that happen. Then there is an Adi, so there is Adi Bhautik, which is the physical level. Then there is an Adi Daivik, and there is Adi Adhyatmik level. So we see it at the physical level, which is happening. Then there is this Daivik, the cosmic level, where everything takes the rupa of the fight amongst Devasura. Yeah, it's that. And then beyond that is where we see the union of the Atma with the Paramatma. That level of Adhyatmika, where we move beyond even the cosmic dualities, the Devasura that we are talking about. So when we talk about yoga, there also we see it at different levels. Somebody will say it is about joining of this Atma with the Paramatma. Yeah, with this Jiva to the Jagat, to the overall Jagat that we are talking about, the Parabrahma. Yeah. In a very physical sense, it also means alignment of the body with the mind. Yeah. Taking it one level beyond that will be body, mind and the Atma. So achieving union within your own self. Using the other term, which is Yuja Samadho, we are basically saying learning to focus. Now when Patanjali Yoga Sutra is considered, the first line is Atha Yoga Anusashana, and then it says Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is for Nirodha, stopping, cessation of what? Vrittis of the Chitta. So it essentially says it is about stopping all the thoughts, if I may, but all the activity that is going on continuously in the mind. Yeah. So that is what is yoga. So there it is actually used in the Yuja Samadha sense. Okay. But then this is still one aspect of it. What about the other yogas that Krishna is talking about? Yeah. Now because if you see Bhagavad Gita, you have yoga used multiple times. One of the very famous one, anybody remember? What is yoga?
Karma yoga.
Karma yoga, yeah, and there's one shloka which comes. Buddhi yukto jahatiha, ubhe sukruta dushkrutaha, tasmat yogaya yujasva, yogaha karmasu kaushala. It says yoga is skill in action, excellence in action. Yeah, that is yoga. Now, two shlokas before that, it says something else. It says yogastha kuru karmani, sangha tyaktva dhananjaya, then something, samatva yoga uchyate. Yeah. Samatva is yoga. It says yoga is karmasu kaushala. Yoga is excellence in anything you do. And yoga is also samatvam. Samatvam is balance. Yeah. Balance in what? Balance in the sense that Krishna is using is among sukha dukkha. Shita ushna, basically happiness and sorrow, can be developed at equanimity and equanimous bhava towards sorrow and happiness, towards heat and cold. What does it mean? That if it is hot, we are still comfortable. If it is cold, we are still comfortable. We are not criminal. We are not mentally disturbed. Our mental situation, state remains similar even in that. Now, how does this relate to what Patanjali is saying? Because when Patanjali talks about yoga chitta vritti nirodha, he says to achieve chitta vritti nirodha, to achieve yoga, there is another process which is called Ashtanga yoga. Anushthan of Ashta Anga yoga. 8 limbs of yoga. So then when Krishna talks about karma yoga, Krishna also talks about jnana yoga, he also talks about bhakti yoga. And then we have Patanjali who is talking about Ashtanga yoga, which Vivekananda ji then extends and makes it Raja yoga. So ye hai kya? Eventually, that's the question we all will ask, no? Because abhi tak to asana hi tha. Till now it was only asana that we were talking about. So all this is basically yoga, because all this eventually allows us to achieve that state of equanimity. Why chitta vritti nirodha? To achieve samadhi, samadhi, right? To achieve that balance, to achieve peace. All these margas, all these paths eventually lead to that. A state of mind and being, and the process which leads to that. That is both yoga. Yeah. Now, when we say karma yoga, what does Krishna actually say? I will keep bringing Krishna back because eventually, Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita is something I go back to for anything and everything that I'm faced with. So, he talks about karma yoga. But when he says karma yoga, what is he really saying? He's saying, karmanyam adhikarasya ma phaleshu kadachana. You have control over your karma, your actions. But you don't have control over your outcome. Hence, how to work, how to do action? He says, surrender the fruits to me. Okay, surrender the fruits to me and you do what you must do. Now, what does it mean, surrender the fruits to me? He's saying whether you fail or whether you succeed, have a balance in that. Samatvam, what he's starting with, balance. Okay, so whether you fail, whether you succeed, doesn't matter. You must do what you must do, irrespective of whatever your outcome is, because the outcome is not in your hand. That is karma yoga. Then he's saying, Acha, if this is too difficult, because how does a normal person act without really thinking about the results? So difficult. How, right? Some people also say that, how do you motivate yourself when you can't control the outcome at all? Yeah, why will I work? Okay. Now, Krishna is not saying that you don't have to worry about the outcome at all. He's only saying you don't have adhikar over your outcome. And why don't you have adhikar over your outcome? Because your outcome, he explains in the 18th chapter, depends on 5 things. Okay, I know you asked about yoga, but I'm going on a broader tangent. It depends on 5 things. The 5 things, he says, adhisthana, karta, karana, prithak vidha cheshta, panchamiti daiva. Okay, what are the 5 things? Karta, the doer. Okay, whether you succeed or fail in any task will obviously depend on who's doing it. Is the person capable enough? Does he have the right samarthya? That is one. If you're building a bridge, are you recruiting the right engineer? Does the engineer know? Does he have the experience of building the bridge? So that is the karta. Second is karan, your resources. Yeah? Are you using the right resources? Are you using the right machinery? Your instruments, if there's something wrong with those instruments, or there is some quality issue with the sand that you use, again your bridge is not going to stand. What else? Prithak vidha cheshta. Prithak vidha cheshta is basically the processes that are used to build the bridge. If we don't follow the process, then also the bridge is not going to stand. Right? Fourth is adhisthana. Adhisthana is the surrounding conditions. Basically, if we are saying that we need to build a bridge, we need to check what is the situation around, what is the geology like, what is the earthquake probability of this area, all of that, right? The surrounding conditions will have to be taken into account while making the bridge. If there is an issue there and we don't take care of it, then again the bridge will not stand. But after doing all this, after doing all of this, you've taken care of everything. it possible that while you're still building the bridge, suddenly there is a storm? Yeah, and everything goes down the drain. You try your best, but still the outcome is not in your control, which is Panchamiti Daiva. Krishna says this Pancham is basically the destiny, the hand of destiny, or in project management, the term used is, in science, you guys do experiments. In experiments, there is this one factor that you should consider.
Risk.
Absolutely. Risk. We still consider the risk factor after having done everything. Right? That is what is there. So Krishna is saying there will always be an element of risk which is beyond your control. However, unless the first four are taken care of, unless the Purushartha is done, the Daivam itself can't do anything. So Daivam can't be an escape route. Okay? It can't be an escape route of us not working hard. Hence Krishna is saying, do what you must. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Do act the way you must. Put in all your efforts. But have samatvam, balance towards the outcome, whatever it is. Because all said and done, you can't completely control the outcome. Hence, surrender the outcome to me. Yeah? Be detached from that outcome and still do what you must do. Because if you're not detached, what will happen? What is happening today? People go commit suicide over smallest of things, not going their way. Right? Leads to depression, all sorts of things. So he's saying, develop that sense of detachment, don't worry. But do what you must do. That is Karma Yoga. Then he talks about Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, he's saying the same thing. He's saying, think of you as a Nimitta Matra. He says, Nimitta Matra Bhava Sabhyasachi. Hey Sabhyasachi, hey Arjun, you just become the Nimitta. You are an instrument of the divine will. Right? We don't control where we are born. We don't control eventually what shape our life takes. How much ever we think we know. Right? Unless there is some Devanugraha, there is no success possible. So he's saying, think of yourself only as a nimitta. Thinking yourself as only as an instrument, you work. Which means don't try to own the outcome. Be it good or be it bad. Bad to anyways none of us want to own. Right? We'll blame it on somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault when things don't go the way they should. But even success, he's saying, don't try to own it. Have again samatvam towards the outcome. How? By thinking yourself as an instrument of God's will. That is Bhakti Yoga. Again, samatvam, detachment, karmasu kaushalam comes in all of this. Right? Then we have Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is basically through Chintan Manan, where we say, okay, read the text, the Shastras that have been given to us. Which are the Shastras? We have the Upanishads, which eventually talk about exactly these things. So the outcome is exactly the same. That is expected out of us. Having the sense of samatvam, having a sense of detachment, and doing what we do to the best of our abilities. But then how does Patanjali's Yoga Sutra come in this? And then what about asanas? How are these things related? Again, what is the purpose of yoga? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Now the question is, how to achieve that? How to achieve that samatva? How to achieve that bhakti as well? Bhakti to chalo theek hai, it has a lot more to do with Shraddha. But Krishna or rather Patanjali is saying this is not rocket science. This can be done. Achieving that samatva is possible. Achieving that sense of balance is possible. Achieving that peace of mind is possible. Achieving that focus, that Arjuna's focus is possible. And there is a process for that. He's saying that is possible through a process which is called the Ashtanga Yoga. 8 limbs of yoga. He says if you achieve perfection in all of this, eventually you will achieve that stage of Kaivalya or the stage of Samadhi, where Chitta Vritti Nirodha will happen, Samatva will come, detachment will come, all this will happen. Okay. Now what is he really saying in all of this? Why is this required? Why it is even required to achieve that balance? Why is it even required to achieve a sense of peace and all that? We are all people, we need to see what is in it for us, no? If it is not going to help us in our real life, with our daily decisions, it doesn't matter to us. We are not going to stay in the jungle and become sannyasis, right? Then what does it matter? What does it mean when we say achieve balance, achieve samatva, don't worry about outcome, don't be attached, don't let emotions drive your decisions? What is all that? Essentially, when we achieve samatva, we are able to be witnesses, sakshi, to our own lives. We are able to see ourselves and our surroundings for what they are. Because when Patanjali says yogaha chitta vritti nirodha, he says the same thing after that. What happens? Tada drashtum swarupe avasthanam. When you achieve chitta vritti nirodha, tada drashtum swarupe avasthanam. You see things for what they are. Vritti sarupya vitaratra. Otherwise, you see them based on the biased lenses that you are wearing. Okay. He's saying, if you have not cleansed your chitta of the vrittis which arise out of vasanas and kam, krodha, lobha, moha, mad, matsarya, all of that, what the situation that you see will be colored by the emotions that you are going through. Okay. But when you achieve that equanimity, you see things for what they are. What does it mean? I'm a consultant and I say this all the time. I'm a consultant. I don't produce anything. Okay. And still, consultants get paid handsomely, even more than people who actually produce things. Why? What is the value that they bring? People say they just faff a bit and they still make money. But people knowing that they faff, they still get money. They get hired. And that is why a lot of us, we do engineering and all of that. Eventually, we all want to do consulting. Right? Why? Why do people pay consultants?
Because they're smart.
I agree with you. I want to believe that. I'm a consultant too. I've done consulting for 15 years. But seriously, why do you think?
They can show the right path in the right way.
Why? Yes.
They can show understand.
They have an unbiased.
You're really biased. Yes, right.
This is the thing. They see things for what they are. Tada drashtum swarupya avasthanam. Why? Because they don't need to do chitta vritti nirodha. Why? Because they are not involved in the situation. They are just witnesses. They are looking at a situation without any biases or attachments or emotions. Right? Hence they see situation for what is it which is there. But because we are so involved, we can't see. And this value is and for this value they are paid so much. They are, you said, unbiased. The other word uses, they are objective. They bring in the objectivity. Can we ourselves develop that guna of objectivity within ourselves? If we can, we don't need anybody else to tell us things, right? Not easy. Can we develop that sakshi bhav? How will we develop that sakshi bhav? When we cleanse our chitta of the biases. Now, how to do that? Patanjali says 8 limbs. Okay. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Okay. So he's laid out a process. Now, going up to samadhi is not just adi talking. We are now talking about adhyatma. But I don't want to get into adhyatma at all. Because adhyatma is apna nasib. Okay. It's your prarabdha, how much adhyatmic evolution we can do for ourselves. And there are gurus and rishis much more qualified than me to talk about it. I will talk about the physical, the more practical, okay, that we are faced with in everyday life, and how does that happen? So so even in there, how does the Ashtanga Yoga help? Essentially, when he says about yama and niyam, yama he is talking about our interaction with the people around us. He talks about satya, ahimsa, all of that. Okay. How do you achieve peace with people outside you? This is basically your own niyam, right? That you will not do violence, you will speak the truth and all of that. So that is again training your mind to behave in a certain way by taking a sankalpa. Now the outcome of that is when you train your mind to behave in a non-violent way, you achieve a sense of peace with people outside. Okay. Only when there is shanti around you can you start turning inside. right? So that is one aspect. And the other is just, again, training of the mind. That come what may, I will not think bad about it. I will do what I need to do. So even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is not saying don't fight. He's saying fight, but don't have hatred. Do it because it's your job. Okay? Do it because it's your job. You must establish dharma. You're a warrior, you're a kshatriya. You have to establish dharma. Hence you fight. You don't need to have dvesh for anybody else. Okay? He's saying look at everybody in this with samatva. Look at everybody with samatva, but still do what you must. When you say look at everybody with samatva, you don't say that the other person who's doing the wrong thing is right. No. Okay? That will again be biasness, no? So if somebody is adharmi, you should be able to see the adharma in that. Only there you can be objective. So he's saying when somebody is doing adharma, look at that person as an adharmi and fight it because you must. Don't get carried away with your emotions of love and all of that. Doesn't work. Okay. So anyways, coming back to this, Yama Niyama is also training your mind to do what you must, whatever the obstacles that come in your mind. Basically, when we say detachment or objectivity and all of that, it is about mind control. Okay. Controlling our anger, controlling our lust, controlling our attachments. Eventually, it all boils down to mind control. Okay. So anyway, so it says the niyama are about yourself. Shaucha, Ishwar Pranidhan, Tapasya. Basically, they say ensure you follow some rules for yourself. Establish that peace within yourself. Establish a niyam within yourself. Yeah. Do some kind of a sankalpa, which is which he calls tapasya, which is basically say every 1 day a week I will fast. Okay. I will not eat anything before I do my puja. Anything. It could be anything. Take some sankalpa. Okay. Ishwar Pranidhan. Also start practicing some sense of surrender. Not trying to control everything around you. Have some shraddha. All this you develop through your niyama process, right? So it is not as if one first do yam, then do niyam, then do asana. No. All this go together. But these aspects are equally important as the physical practice. Now, after that we come to the physical practice, which is asana. Okay. So asana is trying to physically train your body to be able to sit in a position for long. Sthiram Sukhamasana. It is for achieving stability. Physical stability. Physical stability cannot happen without mental stability. Okay. So one is physical stability. The benefit of that is for achieving stability, whatever practice you do helps you with strengthening your muscles, helps you with toning your body. Okay. Helps strengthen the bones, helps develop muscles, all of this. So asana has a lot of physical benefits. But the main idea is to develop stability in your body so that we can sit for a longer period of time for dhyana dharana. Okay. The other part is pranayama. Now pranayama is very interesting. The word pranayama, anybody knows what it means? Pranayama?
Control over brain.
Control over breath, but pranayama.
Like a dimension of how to take it, how to.
That is what you do in pranayama. I am just asking the word meaning. Pranayama. Ayam is to stretch. Okay. Prana. Stretch the prana. What does it mean? How do you stretch your prana? Huh? No, pranayama, stretching of the prana. Okay. So stretching of the prana means what? What is prana? Say one breath cycle. You inhale, you exhale. Okay. Typically it will be what? I guess 10-12 seconds for inhaling and exhaling in a normal situation. Now you extend that. Say it was taking 6 seconds for inhaling and exhaling. If somebody is very stressed, that will be very short. It will be right? If somebody is at peace, it will be like longer prana. Shorter prana, longer prana. Now you see the mental condition itself changes. If you are very stressed, the breath is smaller. Pranayama is saying, stretch your prana. If somebody is stressed out, they come running, they don't know what to do, whatever. Say our friend comes to us. Immediately what do we tell them? They are trying to tell us something. What do we tell them? Sit down. ये पानी ले, थोड़ा श्वास ले. है ना? We are forcing our mind eventually to stay in that state of peace longer. Okay, that is what pranayama does. Of course, again, all this has a lot of physical benefits. That's a different thing altogether. Okay, but this is the idea. And then once you are settled in your mind, in your body, then we start talking about meditation, which starts with dharana. Dharana is to hold. Okay, so you look at something, you have, at any point in time, there are multiple thoughts going in our mind, right? Dharana is to start focusing on a few, on one. Okay, it is not to say that cleanse your head altogether of all thoughts, no. It's basically saying, start focusing on one thing at a time. What we talk about mindfulness, right? They say be present in that moment. So focus on that one thing that you're doing. How do you do that? You have to train your mind for that, through dharana. Extended time frame of dharana becomes dhyana. And eventually, when we reach a stage where even the sanskars will say, okay, let me not even go there, but when we can focus on any one thing over an extended period of time, without getting moved, without getting disturbed, that is then samadhi. Of course, samadhi is very, very adhyatmic, let me not get there, but meditation at least will take you there eventually. But the focus and concentration starts coming with the practice up to dharana itself. Dhyana dharana. Getting to samadhi is not for us. I'm talking about in general, yeah? There might be some for who it works, but in general. So all the meditation and everything that we do is essentially going up to dhyana dharana. Why? Again the same thing. It is helping us settle down in our minds, develop that sense of objectivity. Now what happens in dharana? Sometimes, people will say, "Arey, I can't do meditation at all." Also, when people are in depression and stuff, it's better not to ask them to do dharana. You know why? Because when you sit peacefully, we might think, I'm only going to focus on one thing. Okay, but the mind doesn't allow us to focus on one thing. There might be 10,000 things going on simultaneously. We might be focusing on one for say 1 second, then 5 seconds we lose the focus. Then again we remember, मुझे उस पे focus करना था. Again we come back to that. Yeah? That's fine. Over time with practice, that 1 second will extend to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds to focus on that one thing. But at any point in time there are multiple thoughts coming. And we cannot control what thoughts they could be. Sometimes just because of the way we've lived our life, we cannot accept the thoughts that come in our head. We've tried to avoid them, ignore them for so long. We are like, how can I even think of these things? Is this thought coming in my head? Oh my God, no, this can't be right. Right? And we try to run away from that situation. If people who have conditions of depression and stuff, if you push them to start with meditation, it might actually worsen their condition. Yeah? Hence, again, that your psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever will take a call. But there it's better to start with pranayama. It's better to start with asana. Pranayama is actually the easiest, safest method of starting. Where you say, okay, you sit and you breathe. Then let things come. Yeah, because at least you're focusing on your breath at that time. So anyway, what I was saying is eventually it all boils down to controlling your mind. And that is what yoga is all about. Sorry, a long answer.
Another one of our applause, please. Okay, please. You covered a lot of bases, and I was listening to one of the podcasts, although I was nudged to go to the audience interaction, but I just have one small question, and if we can also be brief. I was listening to one of your podcasts where you mentioned about how controlling your breathing and all that leads to control of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So, being the Biological Research Institute, I think audience would really appreciate if you could shed some light on that, like how that really happens of the stress response of that, if you can please.
Okay, I have to caveat. I am not a doctor or anything, so I might use wrong terms. Yeah, please bear with that. I would give you a framework of how it works. Yeah, I'm just very wary of using. Making it sound as if I am an expert biologist, neuroscientist. No, I'm not. But again, yoga is not, when we say yoga helps with chittavritti, nirodha and all that, it is not rocket science. There is no magic happening. This is all happening physically in our body. That is why we see the impact. Yeah, that is why the impact is seen. So what really happens in our body when we are talking about managing stress? We say yoga helps with stress management. What is that? What is stress to begin with? Is the question. Okay. So, our human body has multiple systems. One is the bone, the skeleton that we have. Then we have the muscles over it. Then we have the respiratory system. We have the excretory system. We have the nervous systems, which basically helps signals go from one place to the other. The brain actually controls everything that we do, right? So these are these different systems. Now when we say equanimity, when we say yoga, we are also talking about achieving balance in all these systems. Okay, eventually a balance is required, what is called homeostasis. Okay, so our body has to be in a state of homeostasis if it needs to be healthy. There is in Sanskrit, in Sushruta Samhita, when they talk about the definition of swasthya, they say sama dosho, sama agni. Basically, they are saying everything in your body has to be in balance. All the systems have to be in balance. How are they in balance? Basically, the control system is through the brain. Okay, so if your brain is working well, if your brain is in balance, your entire body will also be in balance. Now, your brain is very interesting. It has 3 prime parts. Okay, which are they? One is the reptilian brain, which is basically in all living organisms. Okay, which helps you move your reflexive actions, your breathing and all of that. That is controlled by the reptilian brain. Every animal, all animals have it. Then we have something called as the emotional brain or the limbic brain. Okay, and then we have the cortex, the thinking brain. Now, in human beings, the limbic brain is actually quite strong. Here is where all the processing of our emotions and all that happens. Okay. Once I was asked this question that why do we have, if eventually the goal is to achieve equanimity towards all the emotions and all that, why do we have those emotions at all? Yeah, why not? Is it like the life is meant to control those emotions? You shouldn't have, God should have put only those emotions. Now the thing is, every emotion also has an evolutionary need in our body. Okay. So for example, in our limbic brain, there are things at the right point in time during the day we feel hungry. Okay. Now, ati hunger is bad, but feeling hungry is important because then only we will make that effort to go procure food and eat it, right? We like certain tastes. Also, why the liking towards taste? Because we are then motivated to go get food and eat, right? Similarly, when we talk about sex, why the excitement with sex? Because eventually without procreation, the society will not sustain. You have to attach the Prakriti attaches a sense of gift, what you like, with activities which are important from an evolutionary perspective. Okay. What happens eventually, because we are human beings, is that we have that free will of controlling how much, but the control doesn't happen. Okay. Now, so also from a survival perspective, all that is controlled by the limbic brain. Okay, so limbic brain has what we call the pain and pleasure centers. And we have an autonomic nervous system. So there is a central nervous system, then we have peripheral nervous system, and PNS we have autonomic anyways. So this is a little bit detailed about how the brain interacts with the body. In that, we have something called as parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. Now, why do we need sympathetic nervous system? It is called the flight and fight system. Okay. When initially the hunter-gatherers times and all that, people used to live in the forest along with animals and everything. Okay. When you see a tiger or a lion, you know you have to protect yourself. Your mind knows it has to protect itself. At that time, you're not going to sit and think, oh, is the lion hungry? Will it eat me? Maybe it is very tired. It will not come after me. You're not going to sit and do the analysis at that point. You need to save yourself. You need to run immediately. So as soon as the vision of the tiger comes, you will be scared and you will start running. Why? Because you need to save yourself. Okay. So this flight and fight is extremely important. Now what happens in that? Because of that threat that your body has sensed, your mind has sensed, it makes the limbs, you need to run, right? So if you need to run, you need energy in your limbs. Now where will this energy come from? It will have to be directed from the body only, no? Your legs need more blood, it will need more oxygen to create that energy, to expend that energy. So the arteries which are going towards your limbs get expanded. The arteries going towards the other functions. For the time being, while you are trying to save yourself, your digestion can wait, no? Yeah, or your detoxification, all that can wait. So the arteries going to those systems or those organs of your body which are not immediately required become smaller. Okay, and those to your limbs become bigger. Why? Because you need more blood flow and all of that. Once the threat is gone, you relax. Okay, now even in that, when there is a threat, you start breathing shallow. Why? Because you just want more oxygen at that time. Okay. Now, once the threat is gone, you need to be able to come back to what is called your rest and relax system, which is a parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So, what happens in the parasympathetic nervous system? All the dilation that has happened in the arteries and all that, it goes back to normal. Okay. Once it goes back to normal, the other activities of, other metabolic activities of digestion, all of that, cleansing, all that starts work again, and you're back to normal, you are breathing deep once again. This is the natural process in our system. And what controls it? It basically is from the limbic brain, because you want it fast, right? Immediately your pain center is triggered, and this is how the body reacts. But what if that threat is not real? Okay, what if that threat is not real? If your body, if your mind starts taking every no as a threat, your body will go into exactly the same process without a real threat. Now, what does that do? If your body is continuously in a state where the energy or the blood that should flow to your metabolic system doesn't flow, it goes for a toss. That is why when people are stressed, why does the metabolic system go for a toss? This is the reason. Okay, then what is the way to manage it? You need to essentially bring your system back into the parasympathetic nervous system, because that is the system where everything is working as they should in their normal rhythm. Okay, how do you bring it back? Basically, when your parasympathetic nervous system is active, your brain is in control of your limbic system. Okay, your emotional system, your brain, is controlled by the thinking brain. You can analyze better. For example, if you are running to save yourself and somebody asks you 2 plus 2, that also we cannot do. Right? Because the way your brain is not working, you are not meant to analyze, do analytical activities. But when you are in aram, say in shanti, even the most difficult of the problems you can solve. Because that's when the cortex is being used. The thinking brain is used. So, what is it in simple terms? If in a regular mode, your cortex controls your limbic system, you will stay more in the parasympathetic nervous system mode. Now, what does yoga do? Yoga brings back the control again and again to the cortex. Why? Because when you do asana, okay, asana where you are holding a position for long, that cannot happen through emotional brain. See, if people are stressed, you see that body language is also wrong. They will slouch, they will be like, sabotage. Only because of stress. You see it in the body language, all of that, right? Now we are saying, stop all this. Hold a position for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever. That can only happen when there is more awareness in what you do. Awareness comes through the cortex. Okay, so you've basically taken control from the limbic brain, given it to the cortex. Okay, this cortex is very lazy. Unless and until you really make it work, it will not work. And this limbic brain is ever ready to work. Okay, that is why also, see, it's not as if we don't have information. We know smoking is bad for us. So, buddhi to hai na, buddhi ko malum hai, smoking is bad for us. Still, those who are addicted, knowing that it is bad for them, smoke. Why? We are supposed to be men of wisdom, and still we do that. Smoking chhod do. There is a person who has diabetes, wo bhi chhod do. I've been going to the gym, burning, working my ass off trying to reduce weight. But then, I see a cake in front of me. I have just gone to the gym. Okay, I know how difficult it is to get off that calorie. But the moment I see that, knowing fully well how many calories I am going to take in, I still eat. Why? I know na. Information ka kami to nahi hai. There is no dearth of information. And still, I am doing that which a rational person wouldn't do. Of course, as a smart person, I will rationalize that. One day only, no. I'll run 2 miles extra tomorrow. So that also we do. Why? Because this limbic brain, the pleasure brain center, it's very, very stubborn. Yeah, it will make you work in that direction only. And that is why for the cortex, for us to make the cortex practice to say, no, no, come back. No, no, come back. That is a task. And it requires regular work. Yeah. So in asana, you have started taking control from the limbic brain into the cortex. Because the movement is controlled by the reptilian brain. And reptilian brain also is controlled from limbic brain as well as cortex. So you're saying not limbic brain, come back to the cortex. Similarly, when we are breathing with awareness, we are doing the same thing. As I said, when we are stressed, breathing goes for a toss. Right? That means there is a connection. When we are breathing deeper, we are thinking better. So we are basically saying, cortex, take that. That is why the impact also, so first you might do pranayama for 10 minutes. You might feel nice and happy and peaceful for the next 10 minutes. With time, you will extend your pranayama, but also the impact stays for longer. When you are in that Shanti Wala state for longer, that analytics will also be for, you'll be able to think clearly for longer, right? And dire dire you have developed the, what is that, neuroplasticity, where your cortex is like, no, I have to take charge. Yeah, that happens. And then in dhyana, again the cortex comes in control of the cortex. It's the other thing. So anyways, so this is how you're actually making your brain work, making your cortex work to take control of your life. That is why, and now why is this important from our perspective? It again boils down to decision making, right? How should you take decisions? Should you take decisions driven by the pleasure and pain points only? Yes, in situations such as real threat, it should be that. But more often than not, none of these threats are real. These threats are our own doing. What do I like? My attachments, my likings, my dislikings, all of that. I like to give this example. It's in Gita, whenever you imagine Bhagavad Gita, what image do you see?
Krishna and Arjuna.
And they are in a
Rath.
Rath. Okay, so they are in a Rath. Shri Krishna is holding the reins, okay, the horses, and Arjuna is standing behind. So in Kathopanishad, there is a shloka which comes Buddhi tu Sati. Basically, they are saying this body is actually, we are like Ratha only. All the indriyas, the sense of smell, taste, sparsha, all of that, which actually, when I say I like the cake, what is it? It's my jivha that loves the taste, right? I like to listen to something. So all these panchendriyas of ours, they are the ghodas, they are the horses. They go in whichever direction they want, unless they are controlled by the reins, lagams. Okay, so this rein is the mind, which controls the indriyas. Now, if the buddhi doesn't hold the reins, there is no way you can control the horses. So the buddhi is like the sarathi, like the charioteer. Okay, and Arjuna is the Atma, it's basically all of us. So the buddhi is Krishna, who should be holding the reins, should be holding the lagam, so that our indriyas are controlled and we can go in the direction that we want to go in, not in the direction where the horses want to go. Okay, so the charioteer has to be driving the ratha. The horses should not be driving the charioteer. That exactly is what is going on in our head as well. The mana must not be controlling the buddhi. The buddhi must be controlling the man. And yoga allows us to do this. As I said, it's basically for biology only. Through the nervous systems, through the metabolic system. This is exactly how yoga works.
That was truly awesome. Please give a big round of applause. And now I'd like to give stage to Komalji for the audience interaction. Please.
Thank you, Akshay. Great talk, Amiji. I think audience might have few questions for it. So for our next half, if audience have any questions for Amiji, feel free to ask.
You mentioned that in the Gita, Krishna said, leave the outcomes to me, surrender the outcomes to me. I know in Sanatana Dharma we value the concept of karma, and how your karma always comes back to you, either good or bad. So who decides the outcomes, or is it a combination of the two? Does Bhagwan really, make sure what the outcomes are, or is it karma that contributes to your outcomes?
It is both. It is both. As I said, right? He says you can't control your outcome, but you control your actions. So your karma is your action. Whatever you do will have an outcome, for sure. It's just that what that outcome is, you can't control. Why can't you control? Because there is an element which is a pancham. Of the 5 elements, there is one element which is the destiny. Now, interestingly, this destiny, if we go by the philosophy or the theology, so to say, is also somewhere linked back to the prarabdha or the karma that you had done before. Okay. So, in that sense, your karma still is supreme. Only in this current outcome, you cannot do anything about it. And that is why ensuring right karma is extremely important. Because it will have impact in your future karmas as well as your prarabdha. Right? So karma siddhanta is the underlying siddhanta of anything and everything that we do. There is no running away from it.
Thank you.
Yes. You talked a little bit about Atma and soul, right? What exactly is soul? Where does it reside in the body? When does it enter the body, and when does it leave the body? Because I can give examples. I'm a physician where I see a patient is almost like dead, but the body is dead, and I know the soul is left. This is not going to come back, whatever I can do. So do you have some answer? I've asked this question to a lot of people,
Yeah.
including...
Very honestly, this is not my subject matter expertise.
No.
So I will not go into this area at all. There are lots of commentaries, theories which are put forth, right? Many different gurus, rishis have spoken on it. So they will say, Atma is like the length of the thumb, which resides in the gudha of the heart. Okay, and how does it go out? It says this is the randhra over here, through which it goes out eventually, when the death happens, yeah? So they say that. And then when the Atma goes out, it also has Karan Sharir. So it is still the Atma, but then Atma, how does the Karma Siddhanta work? Because the Atma itself has some aspect of the personality of the person, which it has left. So there are lots of these concepts, which I know a little bit, but I am not completely a master into this. This is a completely adhyatmic discussion. So I will not add anything that I don't know.
Only one question for
No, I
you.
mean, the reason I was asking is I want to know when exactly in the process of formation of the fetus does this Atma enter, because that may have implications and where we should get the abortion rights given to the people.
Yes.
Once it enters the Atma, I think people should not abort. And but what is that exact 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12
So
weeks?
I'll tell you the view of the dharma. Okay,
I'm getting more from the abortion rights.
I see exactly what you
Like
mean.
if Atma is entered at 12 weeks, we should not allow any abortion after 12 weeks.
So per our philosophy, per the dharmic philosophy, once the conceiving happens, it is a fetus.
Right.
And Bhruna Hatya is one of the highest papa. That is how it is said in our Dharma Shastras. Okay. So are they differentiating between number of weeks? No. They are just saying Bhruna Hatya at whatever time period is a papa because you are killing a life. That is what they say. So there is really no time period given there. That said, if recent research has a view, then it's not an area which I have any knowledge on. So.
Go ahead.
A question for Ami. Fantastic, by the way, discuss another way. One question now, I've been practicing meditation for 14 years now, every day, twice a day. One question for you is that you give a very good, analogy of mind and Krishna, Atma and Arjuna. Did your book also try to, I'm curious to know about what is the role of the 5 Pandavas in our body?
So my book speaks on itihas.
Okay.
Okay, but there are people, as I said, right, every shastra has been read at different levels. So one is the physical level, which is the itihas. But yeah, a lot of people use panch indriyas and all of that as well, in the adhyatmic level. I don't completely subscribe to that. So because for me, itihas is itihas, and I see it at that level. This is just an imagery. For Pandavas, there is an imagery, but I have not explored that at all in the book because my focus was itihasa as it happened.
You kept on saying mind, brain, and one. Is it brain different from chitta, or is it the same thing?
So you have buddhi chitta complex. Okay, chitta is basically mana, but then again different texts will use chitta in different ways. In certain texts, you will have mana and buddhi together meant as chitta, along with even the memory. Okay, in some others, they very clearly differentiate between chitta and buddhi. So you will see it in that context. The way I was using it is mainly in the sense of mana right now.
Chitta means consciousness.
Yes, exactly, all of that.
So you said, you kind of waved us away. You said, you guys, it's unlikely any of you will get to samadhi. And
No,
I'm not,
I said mostly
That's fine.
maybe there will be
So my
others.
question is based on that. Very few people get samadhi. I understand that part, okay? Now, the people that get samadhi, did they do all the dharana, dhyan, everything within one life? Or if I get to dhyan, will that continue in my next life so I can get to...
Excellent question. So I must say, I was not trying to dismiss anybody. And when I say you guys, I don't even mean you guys. It includes me as well. Yeah, I'm talking about all of us, and that also I'm sure, I pray there are people who reach the stage that they reach. So it was not trying to dismiss anybody. That said, that's a beautiful question. This comes both in Patanjali Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, when Patanjali Rishi is trying to say what kind of people can achieve progress, yeah? He's saying there are two kinds. There is one who come with previous Janma Sanskaras. Okay, so those who come with previous Janma Sanskaras, they already have an edge. And when they are given the right conducive conditions, for them to achieve that state is easier, relatively. There are others, for them, they may not even have to go through the Ashtanga Yoga or anything. That might just come. There are people who have very strong intuition. Yeah. So what happens when you achieve samadhi? That is the question we should ask, right? It says Ritambara Tatra Prajna. Your Ritambara Prajna becomes enlightened. What is Ritambara Prajna? It is your deep intuition. The Prajna of Rita, of the cosmic order. Basically, the deep intuition gets enlightened in that state of samadhi. For some people, they don't have to do all of this. They naturally have a very strong intuition. How does it come? Patanjali says, previous Janma Sanskaras. Others have to work towards it. Okay. Now, Arjun asks Krishna that I work, you're telling me all this, I will work. But what if I don't achieve this in this Janma? Okay, you're talking about being Yukta, you're talking about being Yogastha. What if I don't achieve this in this Janma? Sthita Prajnata. Krishna says, doesn't matter. What goes wherever you leave at this stage. Okay, those sanskaras will be with you. As I was saying, Atma, there is a Karan Sharir, according to theology and all that. So he says that whenever the Punarjanma happens, because we have the concept of Punarjanma, Karma, Punarjanma, all that goes together. Okay, so when the Punarjanma is going to happen, you are placed in a situation which will be conducive or which will at least have the right kind of conditions for you to start your practice. So you may not go back to nothing. You might start from a place where you can have an edge. So this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. So practice never goes waste. That is the underlying theme. We keep doing. We may not succeed now, but that does not mean we have failed. We start from where we left in the next journey.
You said very right. Can I just say something if you don't mind? Because I got a Diksha for meditation. And when I received Diksha, told me in your last life this was your chakra of meditations. It was clearly told to me, okay, so there is this behind it, that we come life after life and we focus and we progress from there. That is very true.
So is there any, we know in Hinduism, is there a real good proof that there is reincarnation? By just sitting around or
there is this book called Many Lives. Kailash, what is that book which you had read recently? What are the Many Lives wala?
Many lives, many
Yeah, so people
masters.
have done research in this. A lot of them. And they have said that, okay, there is reincarnation possible. There are some of these anecdotal stories which is there. Now, is there a scientific paper to believe some of these anecdotes for it? So, yeah, but that might be a book to check out. That Many Lives wala.
this one scientist, I forget his name, it's from the US. He did a lot of research. He's got over 500 or 5,000 documented cases. So he said most of this past life, he's written, if you look past life memories, if you find a book on scientists, so between 5 and 8 years of ages, whoever gets it, it's been that, and then fades away after that.
Yeah.
It's very well documented.
Yeah, I think it is related to that research which Kailash just mentioned. So there is some of these research, but will it be 100% reproducible? I don't know.
No, I mean, there's like, it sounds so, sounds like a myth in the sense like if there is so much of going on for so many million years of reincarnation, at least someone who died as a surgeon will be born as a cardiac surgeon again.
Why does it have to be that?
I mean, because you left wherever as the cardiac surgeon was.
No, it is
then
not
you died as a
about
cardiac
the,
surgeon,
again,
you'll be born as a cardiac surgeon. or
you,
something.
so the vrittis state, okay, it is not the skill. Like, so the bacha will be born and start working. No, that's not the point. It is the bhava, it is the prajna, it is the samarthya which might be there. Right? For a surgeon, the samarthya is not just doing surgery, but it is the focus that he comes with. It is the ability to do hard work, right? All those are the bhavas that stay, not the surgery skill. Then we say, oh, but how then next? We'll say, Asha, next generation, somebody who's died a programmer should come up as a...
Exactly,
you know,
that's my
no.
point is at least
Exactly, so this is
there
a
is
wrong
at least
thing.
one proof like that.
No, correct, but you know what? This is called Vittanda, where we argue for the heck of arguing.
We will take it after this. Okay, go ahead.
I have a very simple question. Amiji, I know you read a lot before you wrote the book, but what actually motivated you to write the ethics part?
So as I said before, right, a lot of things which happen in life, they cannot happen without Devanugraha. I was not even thinking of writing. And I'm being very honest, I'm not at all being humble or anything. Writing was not even a thought. I was studying because I was very curious and I was not finding answers to the question I had. And the questions were more about, we always have these discussions around Mahabharata, Ramayana and all of that. And somebody is like, oh, Karna is better. Somebody will be like, Arjun is better. Arey, why is Yudhishthira Dharmaraj when he's taking away his wife? Yeah? And then you start questioning that what are the texts really telling us? Kuch sense hi nahi banta hai. Yeah? Somebody they're calling dharmi, somebody they're calling adharmi, but dharma person seem to represent dharma are behaving dharmically. Others are just being, their entire life, apparently everybody is being unjust to them just because they're born in a wrong jati. I mean, is this what the texts are telling us? Then if this is what the texts are telling us, then is this something we should be proud of? These were the questions I had. So I started with actually cynical curiosity. Okay. But the only thing, because I had time and maybe it was the will of Krishna, that I said, no, I will find the answers for this. And I've been a little bit of Hissu since bachpan, so it helped. And I had time. So I'm like, no, I really need to find this for myself. Achha, now before I started actually reading the Itihasa, something else happened. I was trying to dabble into different kinds of Shastras to understand what all this is. The inspiration came from Being Different, Rajiv Malhotraji's book. It really made me question who am I when I say I'm a Hindu. That main kya hu? So I was dabbling with Shastras at that time. And I read this, I was trying to read a book on Nyaya Shastra. Obviously I picked up a translation. So there the author it was in English and he was giving different kinds of arguments that can be made. Everything is going fine, but suddenly one type of argument he writes that only people of certain caste can participate in this argument. And I'm like, this is not making logical sense. Abhi tak there was no caste. Now suddenly people of the same caste, how does it's just not making sense. So I said, chalo, let me at least go back and read what the Sanskrit is saying. So there was a word jati used, okay, which was translated as caste. Now anybody who has any knowledge of Indian languages will very naturally understand that jati is not just caste. When we look at jhad, that jati of jhad, the jati of pashu, the jati of phala, the jati of fruits or flowers or anything, right? Species also means jati. So the argument being made was that don't compare oranges and apples. If you want to compare same class, you have to compare it to the same class. It was in that sense the word jati was used. Okay. Now that was a shock for me because this was a very well acclaimed Anuvad. And I was like, if I had not gone back, I was about to think that everything in the Shastra eventually boils down to caste only. Right? So I was like, no, if I want the answers, I cannot rely only on Anuvad. Definitely not on English Anuvad. Okay. So that's when I was like, okay, if this is also so skewed, maybe my understanding of Itihas, maybe there is more. So if I want answers, I will have to go back to the original. And that is how I started studying. For my own curiosity. The writing happened thanks to China. Because of the coronavirus. I had quit and I had gone back. Yeah, it is actually that. I was living in Hong Kong, quit and I went back to India because बहुत साल काम किया था. I was like, please figure out what I do there. But because it was lockdown time, I thought I don't want to work from home or anything, no need to find a job. And Modi ji started playing Ramayana Mahabharata again, right? This time what happened, everybody still was with their questions, but I knew a little bit more. So I would write Facebook posts saying that, oh, this is not how it was. Gandhari never, Draupadi never says blind man's son is blind. Andhe ka putra andha. This is not true. Okay. Now some of those posts went really viral because I would put the screenshot of the Gita plus Mahabharata and all that. And everybody was shocked because we all know our Itihas only from the text or only from the serials, right? More often than not. So again the debates started raging. Yeah, there were debates on my page as well. And look, I had nothing else to do. So this was, good use of time. At that time, a publisher friend of mine, who was not a friend at that time, just somebody I knew, he was like, I have been following your post and this is so interesting. He said, we publish multiple books on Mahabharata, Ramayana every year. And still, I haven't seen what you have written. Because he said, everybody wants to write their interpretation. They want to take a protagonist and create a hero or heroine out of it. And which means they twist the stories to their liking. Yeah? He's like, I've read all of those books on Mahabharata Ramayana and I still don't know what Mahabharata Ramayana has. Why don't you write a book? And I was like, mazak hai kya? Like, main likh bhi tum, padhega kaun? This is literally what I asked him. That I might write. Who is going to read? He's like, don't worry about that. He's like, this is very powerful material. And till the cover page design started being done, I think Palak was probably one of the few ones who knew that I'm writing. I didn't tell anybody. And I told her because I wanted her to tell me that, yeah, does this even make sense? I didn't tell anyone that I'm writing a book. Because I'm like, okay, he's telling me, publish kaun karega? I was still not sure, yeah. So that's how the writing happened. Complete Krishna's will. Nimitta matra.
For those of you who are interested in Anji's book, you can check it out at the display. And if you want to buy, you can buy it. Any question?
I have a follow-up question on the intuition you mentioned. Intuition, you told some people will have by default a better intuition. So that intuition actually contributes to the fifth part you told, destiny part. Like you sense which is the right path, right?
Not the destiny. Destiny is not the state.
Like you feel this is the right thing without actually.
That is the intuition.
Yeah, that's the intuition. So, but in the 5 parts you told you have to work hard, like you have to logically think, put in efforts, all that. So, have you ever encountered a situation where your intuition says something, but logically you should work on something else, like the opposite? When you are in a situation like this, how will you resolve that?
So now this is, I won't say any personal anecdote there, but you see a lot of business decisions that sometimes happen. Yeah. For example, McKinsey was working with Bharti, okay, maybe not McKinsey, some consulting firm was working with Bharti Airtel in the 90s, okay, to check whether it made sense for them to enter telecom. Okay. The promoter wanted to enter telecom. He's like, this sector is going to grow. Okay. But after all the logical analysis, whatever data was available, you can only do analysis based on what you know and the past, right? The consultant's report was, this has a long gestation period. The kind of growth rates that will be required for you to get your money will not happen. So the recommendation was, don't get into it. After all the logical thinking. Bharti still went. And we know about the telecom industry, right? So Lot of times this happens because your logical approach, which more often than not is the right approach. Okay, I'm not saying that is not required, that is the right approach. Also, when you continuously try and sharpen your logic, eventually it starts building into your intuition as well. Okay, because intuition also is eventually based on some patterns that one has seen in life. Maybe not at that point in time. Yeah. So that part is also important. But this happens a lot of times that the present situation is telling you that this might be the way to go, but you, for all that you believe in, might take another step and actually be successful.
I have a question, Amici. How to decide which Ramayana to believe in, Tulsidas or Valmiki?
Valmiki Ramayana. There is absolutely no sunshine in that. There is one source, which is Valmiki Ramayana for Itihasa. What is Itihasa? Itihasa has as it happened. Okay. So if you want to know Ramayana as history, there is only one source, nothing else. However, there are many essays which will tell you there are 300 Ramayans. And more often than not, people read Manas, not Valmiki Ramayana. Then does Manas not have a place? Of course it does. What we have to remember is this: Manas has a place from bhakti perspective, not from Aitihasic perspective. Okay, so while Manas was extremely important, has been extremely important in giving hope to a generation of people. In the times when their temples were being broken, where they were taxed just for being Hindus, where their women were being kidnapped and raped, they needed hope. They needed Ram to be made accessible, which Tulsidas ji did by writing Manas in Awadhi, right, and giving hope to a generation of people. So it has its place. But Tulsidas ji is writing about his Ishta. He's writing about his God, both Hanumanji and Shri Ram, right? Valmiki ji is writing about a contemporary Raja, Samprate Loke, a contemporary Raja of his time. So the bhav is also a little different, right? And we go, obviously the version to believe will be of the contemporary person, na? Tulsidas ji wrote in 1600s, yeah? So that Ramayana has its place, Ramcharitmanas has its place, Ramavatar of Rishi Kampa has its place, they all have their place. However, there is a dispute between one version versus the other, we go back to Valmiki Ramayana. If also, and the second thing, if we want to take the right lessons from our Itihas, then we have to go back to the origin. Yeah? Now what kind of lessons? So Itihas itself says it is not just documentation of the past. It says Dharma Artha Kama Mokshanam Upadesham Samanvitam. The Upadesh of Dharma Artha Kama in our life. How do we lead our lives in a more fruitful way? If we want to take lessons of that from the text, we will have to go back to the original. Otherwise, our lessons are going to be quite skewed.
Thank you, Amici. If you have questions, we'll have it off session because we are extending our time, so we need to wind up. So, big round of applause. Our YUVA President, Palak Ahuja, to present Amici with
Thank you, Jai Shri Ram.
flowers and administration. I'll just take a moment to tell you about the Hindu YUVA. So, Hindu YUVA aims to provide a platform